Yeah, so we had a very vigorous group, and I can't even begin to put it into some coherent 2 or 3 bullets, but I will say there was a huge amount of excitement about site selection in Chile and people wanting to really dive deep into that in collaboration with people from Chile. And I think the sooner we start that, the easier everything else will be, because it'll bring a lot of focus. And there was a lot of discussion of, I'm going to get it wrong, but micro workshops where both the science questions and how they tie to site selection, and also the technology selection and how it ties to science questions are discussed in sort of great detail among small groups with a lot of sort of background work brought to the front. And that had a lot of enthusiasm.
Great, thanks, Jeff. One quick question. When you say micro workshops, are those online or are they in person? Because it's one of the questions trying to figure out what the best way to move forward is in terms of getting people together.
So I believe they were online and international, but any number of people can speak up about how they.
Great, thanks. All right, Surf Array. Are our Surf Array people back? Oh, there's Sean anyway.
Yeah, so Sean Gallen, Colorado State University. Emily should be happy I remember to introduce myself. So we talked a lot of different things, as everybody else probably did, but I think something that I've been saying throughout the meeting that came up in our group is that one of the things that's limiting us pushing forward proposals is lack of sense of community in the world of geomorphology to be able to facilitate this. So what we think we need to do is have some workshops to be able to diversify the group that we have and then identify specific targets. What would enable identifying specific targets would be actually putting dots on the map. What are the specific geographies that we're interested in? And then the other thing was having a unified framework or generalized framework in order to couch those proposals around process rather than geography, so that the work is going to be transferable.
Great, thanks, Sean. Volcaray, Terry.
Terry Plant, Columbia University. Yes, very lively discussion and impossible to summarize everything. So apologies if I leave something out. But here I think were some highlights. First and foremost, a joint proposal to do a pilot project on a volcano in Chile that involves Chilean and US funding and support. Site surveys on volcanoes. A sandbox experiment on a volcano to understand, say, the best gas instrumentation. I love this, a secret data set that everybody then models and see if you can locate an earthquake, or a secret model, like here's my magma body. Everyone now use your MT code to see if you can restore it. That was a great idea. The field school, like a week-long, open to all graduate students in the world, field school of instrumentation on a volcano. So tons of ideas, and we're ready to get going right away. Everyone's going to pepper Pete Berry and Adam Kent with their ideas. So there's a clearinghouse of proposing conferences and proposal planning. So.
Great, thanks, Terry. Callan?
Yeah, Callan Wang, Geological Survey of Canada. We were in the modeling room. We were in other rooms to talk with people who make observations. Yeah, anyway, we talked about a few things. First we talked about facility practical issues, how to do things for SZ4D, and there's a conversation that there needs to be better help for especially for younger early career people, how to make use of the existing facilities. Lots of computing facilities everywhere, but not a lot of people know how to use them and smoothly. And that's another question is whether we need a SZ4D needs its own facilities with people support, software, and engineers, and even hardware, big computers. And I think feel that probably needs a survey, community survey, see what's really needed. And so that's on the agenda. And that's for the practical aspect. Then we became kind of philosophical and talk about the models and the communication with people who use models. It's useful to emphasize there are two basic types of models, right? One is process focused. It needs to be very, very simple to focus on understand the physical process. And the other is like a reality based. You need a model as a specific area for hazard forecasting, for a lot of things. And these are extremely different. And there's better communication between the modeling community and other users about the difference of what models do what. And not all models are the same. And what kind of input people need from models and modelers need from others. And so that's kind of philosophical, but then quickly came to in practice how modelers contribute to the SZ4D science. I think the general sense is we need better communication. Better communication is a better understanding each other. Like modelers need to get involved with the experimental design, array network design in the field from the very start, and has to be integrated and should not wait for the results or just provide models. Let you use more models, see what we need. We need these parameters. It's not like that. You have to get involved in the step, multiple stations. Interactively in the same room, and and so and also that's something we need to develop over time, need to pay attention. But there are specific things we need to do. We can have like a cider like workshops, like maybe adding workshops, and to talk about things and modelers and non-modelers and talk exchange ideas and things like that. I think these are probably what we covered.
Great, thanks, Kellen. Geology and experiments. Do you have two or one? Oh, 1.5. Great.
Mark, just to let you know, we also have someone standing by from the virtual breakout, so they can speak maybe after the geology and experiments group.
Okay,
their
perfect.
summary.
Thank you.
So we met half together and then we separated. I would say some of the more exciting things that came out of our conversations, we talked about how we both fall under the kind of the umbrella of activities together with modeling. And so we actually feel like we're really well positioned to start going on a lot of our stuff and writing proposals. So both at like the single PI level, writing science proposals, but then we're also pretty ready to start writing some of our bigger infrastructure style proposals as well. And then we also talked about the need to integrate and find means of funding integration between and collaboration between experimentalists and field geologists and also modelers. So field schools and workshops and proposal writing sessions to do that. And we all within the experimental conversation specifically, then we spent quite a bit of time talking the experimental petrologists in particular about ways that they can start to coordinate their discipline a bit more to tackle some of the challenges that they face as a community.
Great. And so just on the geology side of things, after we split up, we talked a lot about collective science and what that might look like, doing a large collective field campaign pilot study, potentially in the US, to figure out how it would work for us to all get together and do some field work there, and the incentives that we would need to develop for the community to get buy-in, to then try to go and interact with our Chilean colleagues and do something meaningful like that in Chile in the future. So, yeah.
Great, thanks. So we'll go to our virtual reports back.
Hi, this is Scott Bennett, research geologist with USGS. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Great, thanks. We had about 6 people in our virtual group for geology and experiments, and for most of the discussion, it kind of what science can we start now, it kind of gravitated towards shovel-ready projects on exhumed sites because they are less expensive to visit. Other ideas that we can start now involve writing a series of review papers. And the one notion was that these review papers could actually help identify promising field sites or putting dots on maps. Another thing that could be started now and should be started now was the idea that we can make a standard schema, for example, for what fields to describe rock samples in a consistent way. Another idea for things that could start now is a variety of types of modeling studies. Nothing specific came to mind, but this could also help identify and narrow down field sites and putting dots on maps. For the second question, for new technologies, one thing that was really it's an exciting topic was the technological advances needed to collect large areas of high resolution bathymetry to provide high resolution base maps for countless feature studies for years or decades to come, and that high resolution bathymetry will be critical to that. Another thing for new technology would be technological development of borehole fiber optic strain meters and the continued development towards that. The last question about how can we engage the community. Most of our conversation in the virtual room talked about how we can involve Chilean scientists better and do that appropriately. One of the, I think, most popular suggestions was making sure that if this is not already happening, make sure we have Chilean scientists on the SZ4D Executive Committee. And I'll end there. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Scott. I think Garrett, are you there?
Yeah, hi, this is Garrett Ito, University of Hawaii. I was a moderator for the modeling virtual breakout group. Maybe there's a lot of concepts that we wrote down, maybe just to highlight a few with regard to what the handful of us discussed in terms of what we can do now and what technologies we need for improvement. So we did discuss how we have physics-based sort of forward models at the geologic timescale that is certainly making advances, and we're starting, the community is starting to sort of informally match observations. And then we also talked about methods for using geophysical observations for inverting for source parameters, earthquake source parameters, for example, and dynamic source parameters at the very short time scale. And of course, the challenge that we've recognized and been dealing with for a long time is connecting those timescales. And so certainly new technologies for doing that, for example, could include adjoint methods for the forward model and so forth, but certainly that's a new technology. We did talk about the importance of fluids and the abilities that we're seeing now with MT, perhaps combined with seismology, to image distributions of fluids and how important that is and how important that is in informing models. And we did talk about how models of two-phase flow are starting to be sort of match the challenge in understanding both the physics and being able to predict observations. But with regard to one sort of idea that we talked about with regard to stakeholders is the concept, and I'm sure people have talked about this, but since we will be deploying, well, we hope to be deploying instruments and heavily engaging the community with those activities, the engagement need not stop with the data acquisition, of course, right? So it would be pretty exciting, I imagine, to follow up continue the engagement by presenting results and making that available to classrooms and online. So that includes both the geophysical inversions, but also the modeling results that come out of that. And so, you know, I think it'd be pretty exciting for someone who had a seismometer in their backyard to learn what that seismometer did in terms of understanding what's happening in the ground beneath them.
Awesome, thanks, Garrett. Well,